Sarah makes $50,000 a year. She lives in a small apartment, drives a used Honda, and takes the subway to work most days. Every month, she puts away $400 into savings. She feels pretty good about her money situation. Then there's Michael. Michael makes $100,000 a year, double what Sarah makes. He should feel twice as secure, right? But here's the thing. Michael is stressed about money constantly. He checks his bank account and feels broke. He's living paycheck to paycheck, just like people making half what he earns. How is this possible? You'd think making more money automatically means feeling wealthier and more secure, but there's a psychological trap that catches almost everyone when their income goes up. And understanding this trap might be the most important money lesson you ever learn.
Let's talk about what most people believe about money. We grow up thinking there's a number, a magical income level where money stress disappears. When you're making $30,000, you think, if I could just make $50,000, everything would be easier. When you're at $50,000, the magic number becomes $75,000, then $100,000, then $150,000. The promise is always the same. More money equals less money problems. And mathematically, this should be true. If you're making $100,000 instead of $50,000, you have $50,000 more each year to work with. That's over $4,000 extra every single month. That should solve a lot of problems, right? But here's what actually happens in real life. When Michael got promoted from $55,000 to $100,000, something strange occurred. In the first few months, he felt rich. He felt like he'd made it. But within a year, that feeling completely disappeared. Now he feels just as broke as he did before the raise, sometimes even more stressed about money. This isn't just Michael's story. This pattern shows up everywhere. Studies have found that people making six figures often report the same level of financial stress as people making much less. They feel broke despite earning what most would consider a great income. Why does this keep happening?
There's a concept in psychology called lifestyle creep, but I think that term makes it sound like something that just slowly happens to you. The reality is much more interesting and much more deliberate. When your income increases, something shifts in your brain. Your sense of normal changes, and this happens so smoothly that you don't even notice it's happening. Let me show you exactly how this works. When Sarah was making $50,000, here's what her life looked like. She lived in a $900 apartment, nothing fancy, but it was fine. She drove a 7-year-old car that was paid off. She bought groceries at the regular supermarket and cooked most meals at home. She had a basic gym membership at Planet Fitness for $10 a month. Her phone was a generation or two behind the latest model. Vacations meant road trips or visiting family. Her monthly expenses were around $3,200. After taxes, she was taking home about $3,600 a month, which left her $400 to save.
Now let's look at Michael after his income doubled. First thing he did was move. His old $900 apartment suddenly felt beneath him. He wasn't making $55,000 anymore. He was making $100,000. He deserved better, right? So he moved to a $2,100 apartment in a nicer neighborhood. It had better amenities, a gym in the building, covered parking. Then the car. His old reliable Civic had 120,000 miles on it. It ran fine, but when you're making six figures, driving an old Civic to your nice new apartment felt off. So he got a new car. Not crazy expensive, just a $40,000 SUV with a $650 monthly payment. That felt more appropriate for someone at his income level. The grocery store changed too. Not all at once, but gradually. He started shopping at Whole Foods instead of Safeway. Not for everything, just for some things. But those some things added an extra $200 a month to his grocery bill. Eating out increased. When you're making $100,000, grabbing lunch at work doesn't feel like a big deal. Meeting friends for dinner at nicer restaurants becomes normal. That's another $400 a month. He upgraded his phone to the newest model, which meant $100 a month instead of $60. He got a better gym membership at $80 instead of $10 because the building gym was always crowded. He started subscribing to more services, better streaming packages, Spotify Premium, a meal kit service he saw advertised. Little things, but they added up to another $100 a month. Vacations changed too. Road trips felt like something you do when you're struggling. Now he could afford to fly places, stay in nice hotels. Those vacations that used to cost $800 now cost $3,000. Here's the crazy part. None of these individual decisions felt reckless. Each one seemed reasonable. He was making twice as much money. Why shouldn't he live a little better? But let's add it up. Old rent, $900. New rent, $2,100. That's $1,200 more every month. Old car, Paid off. New car, $650 per month. Groceries, $200 more per month. Eating out, $400 more per month. Phone, gym, subscriptions, $110 more per month. Just these changes alone are $2,560 more per month. And remember, Michael's take-home pay after taxes only went up by about $2,200 per month when he doubled his salary. Wait, let me say that again. His expenses went up by more than his take-home pay increased. He went from saving $400 a month to saving nothing, actually to going slightly into debt some months. This is the trap. This is why people making $100,000 feel broker than people making $50,000.
But here's where it gets really interesting psychologically. Michael isn't just spending more because he can. There's something deeper happening in his brain. There's a concept called reference point adaptation. Basically, your brain constantly adjusts what it considers normal based on your current situation, and it adjusts much faster to upgrades than downgrades. When Michael moved into that $2,100 apartment, it felt amazing for about 2 months. Then it just felt normal. The novelty wore off. His brain adapted. Now the apartment wasn't a luxury, it was just his apartment. The baseline, the new normal. The same thing happened with everything else. The new car felt special for a few weeks, then it was just his car. The nicer restaurants stopped feeling like treats and started feeling like regular dinner. Here's the psychological trap. Once your brain adapts to a new baseline, going back feels like losing something. Even though Michael was perfectly happy in his $900 apartment before, the idea of moving back there now feels like failure, like moving backward, like admitting defeat. This is why lifestyle creep is so hard to reverse. It's not just about the money, it's about identity.
When Michael was making $55,000, he identified as someone on their way up, someone building towards something. When he got to $100,000, his identity shifted. Now he identified as someone who had made it, someone successful. And successful people don't live in $900 apartments or drive 10-year-old Civics. But here's what makes this really painful. Sarah, making her $50,000, still has that forward momentum identity. She's still building. Her $400 a month in savings is proof that she's moving in the right direction. Even though she has less money, she has more hope, more sense of progress. Michael, despite making twice as much, has lost that feeling. He's not building toward anything. He's just maintaining, treading water at a higher altitude. All his extra income goes to maintaining a lifestyle that no longer even feels spatial to him. This is why he feels broker. Not because he has less money, but because he has less freedom, less optionality, less sense of moving forward. Think about it this way. Sarah could handle a $400 emergency without much stress. She'd dip into savings, then build it back up. Michael would have to put that $400 on a credit card because he has no cushion. His life costs $2,560 more per month than it used to, but it doesn't feel $2,560 better. There's another layer to this too. When you make more money, you're exposed to more expensive things. You have coworkers who make similar money or more, they become your reference group. If everyone at your office drives nice cars and talks about their expensive hobbies, your brain starts to categorize those things as normal, not luxury. Sarah's coworkers mostly make similar money to her. They talk about finding deals, cooking at home, free activities. That reinforces her choices as normal. Michael's coworkers talk about which restaurants to try, what cars they're considering, where they're vacationing. Every conversation subtly pushes him toward more spending. And here's something nobody talks about. Making more money often comes with more expectations. When you're making $50,000, showing up in a basic car and modest clothes is fine. When you're making $100,000 in a professional environment, there's often an unspoken pressure to look the part. Better clothes, better car, living in the right neighborhood. These aren't hard requirements, but they feel real. Some of Michael's increased spending isn't just about wanting nice things, it's about feeling like he needs to project success to maintain his position and opportunities. So what's the lesson here? First, understand that your brain will always adapt to whatever lifestyle you're living. That $2,100 apartment will feel just as normal as the $900 one felt after a few months. The happiness boost from upgrading is temporary. The cost is permanent. Second, realize that the goal isn't to make more money. The goal is to maintain or decrease the gap between what you earn and what you spend.
Sarah, making $50,000 and saving $400, has a healthier financial life than Michael, making $100,000 and saving nothing. Here's a framework that actually works. When your income increases, decide what percentage of that increase you'll allocate to lifestyle versus saving. The magic number that seems to work for most people is 50-50. If you get a raise that adds $2,000 a month to your take-home pay, let yourself increase your lifestyle spending by $1,000 and save or invest the other $1,000. This does two things. You get to enjoy your success and feel the benefit of making more money, but you also build real wealth and security. You avoid the trap of your expenses rising as fast as your income.
Another strategy, before you increase any recurring expense like rent or a car payment, calculate what that increase means annually. That $2,100 apartment isn't $1,200 more per month than the $900 one, it's $14,400 more per year, every year. Forever, as long as you live there. Ask yourself, would you rather have that slightly nicer apartment, or would you rather have $14,400 per year building wealth? Because that's the actual choice. In 10 years, that's $144,000 plus investment returns. That might be enough for a down payment on a house you actually own. The most important thing is to deliberately set your baseline. Don't let it drift upward automatically every time your income increases. Choose a lifestyle level that feels comfortable but leaves room for building wealth, and protect that gap.
Think of it this way. Rich people don't feel rich because they spend a lot. They feel rich because they could spend a lot but choose not to. They have options, flexibility, the freedom to make choices without stress. That's what Sarah has with her $400 a month in savings. Options, the ability to handle surprises, the psychological security of knowing she's building something. That's what Michael lost, not because he doesn't make enough money, but because he let his expenses consume his income growth.
Here's the final insight that ties this all together. Wealth isn't really about how much you make. It's about the gap between what you make and what you need. A person making $50,000 who only needs $40,000 to live is wealthier than a person making $200,000 to maintain their lifestyle. One person is building wealth and security every month. The other is falling behind. The cruel irony is that as you make more money, it gets easier to fall into the second category. More income gives you access to more expensive options, and your brain will constantly try to convince you that these options are now your new normal. The people who actually build wealth, who actually feel secure, are the ones who resist this. Not by being miserable or denying themselves everything, but by being intentional, by choosing their lifestyle level and protecting the gap. So the next time you get a raise or a promotion, remember Michael and Sarah. Remember that the goal isn't to live like someone who makes your new salary. The goal is to save like someone who makes your new salary, while living like someone who makes less. That gap is where wealth lives. That gap is where financial security lives. And that gap is where the actual feeling of being rich lives, no matter what the number on your paycheck says.